Okay, so how to get a grade 9 in AQA English Language Paper 1, question 2. So we're looking at the November 2020 paper, and this video is a third in the series. So if you haven't watched the previous two, I would go back and have a watch of those because this does continue in the same vein. Okay, let's get started. This is the passage, and I would say look at the question first. How does the writer use language here to describe the garden? Pause the video, read the passage, and as you're reading it, highlight any particular words or phrases that you think are really juicy quotations that you could say a lot about. And that's what we're going to do in this lesson. We're going to look at how to analyse the language, how to really unpack the different connotations. And we're going to look at some different student responses and why they are good and some that are not so good and what they could do better. Okay, so this is the quotation we're looking at today. The wintry sun hung low in the sky and the gnarled growth threw long twisted shadows across the undergrowth within its cage. So last lesson we explored the tree imagery, and today we're focusing on the light and the shadow in the garden. So have a think about that quotation. Which particular words would you want to comment upon? Which words or phrases stand out? Why does the writing use the phrase wintry sun rather than just cold? The wintry sun hung low. Does that imply that it's weak or strong light? The long twisted shadows, does that create a sense that it's safe? Or is it slightly threatening, it's like creating slightly uneasy atmosphere? And the word cage, that's an unusual noun to choose. It's a metaphor, isn't it? Obviously, it's not a literal cage, but the writer's chosen that metaphor deliberately. What does it imply? What are they trying to convey? So it'd be a good idea now to pause the video, perhaps make a few notes on this, and then come back. Here are some notes. Wintry sun hung low. So this creates a sense of the light being weak. There's a sense of fading light. Maybe there's a decline of safety. The gnarled growth and the long twisted shadows. Perhaps this creates a sense of menace. Or it's almost deformed, long twisted shadows. It creates a slightly uneasy atmosphere. Within its cage, that noun cage, there's a sense of entrapment, oppression. Altogether, it creates a sort of an eerie, sinister atmosphere, and it mirrors or it ties in with this confinement theme, and then the strange, slightly mysterious theme of the strange girl's appearance and disappearance, her presence. So let's have a look now at some students' responses. The writer says the sun was low and there were twisted shadows. This makes the setting feel dark. Well, yes, that is accurate. But the problem with that, the candidate's response, is that it's obvious. There's no analysis. They're just stating the obvious. They're not looking at any layers of meaning. So let's have a look at the next one. The description of the wintry sun being low in the sky suggests weakness and fading light, creating a sense that warmth and safety are disappearing. The image of twisted shadows makes the garden feel gloomy and eerie, hinting at an unsettling atmosphere that contrasts with the safety of daylight. So do you see how this is so much better? First of all, they are embedding quotations, short quotations, within the flow of their sentence, which is always good. You don't want to write out long chunks of text and then write the analysis underneath. You want to embed it into your sentences, which this candidate's done nicely. And they're also looking at interpretation, aren't they? What do these phrases suggest? And they're using their imagination. They're interpreting. They're thinking about what it makes them feel and think, creating, it suggests weakness and fading light, creating a sense that warmth and safety are disappearing. And then they're looking again at another phrase, twisted shadows, makes the garden feel gloomy and eerie, hinting at an unsettling atmosphere that contrasts with the safety of daylight. So this is a very strong response. It's thoughtful. They're zooming in on the words. They're looking at the effect of the language. So all of that is very good. Okay, let's have a look at this one. The image of the wintry sun hung low in the sky suggests failing light and lifelessness, symbolizing the decline of warmth and safety. The description of the gnarled growth casting long twisted shadows evokes menace, as though the natural world itself is deformed and threatening. Most strikingly, the phrase "within its cage" conveys a sense of entrapment and oppression, making the setting feel claustrophobic and hostile. Taken together, these details create a sinister and unsettling atmosphere which not only heightens the reader's unease, but also reinforces the theme of confinement and menace that surrounds the strange girl's presence in the passage. So this is obviously a very high-level response, and I'd like to unpack it a bit so that you can take from it ideas for your own writing. It uses technical vocabulary, the image, it's suggesting, giving interpretation, symbolizing the image, symbolizing. All of these are technical vocabulary used accurately. Again, some nice embedded quotations there. But what I really like is this verb here, evokes menace. The description, gnarled, evokes menace. That's a word you could steal and use. It's a really helpful word in analysis because in English, what you've got to do, you've got to be sensitive to the way writers are using language. And the way writers want language to work, they want to create pictures in you, in your mind. They want to conjure up images. And that verb evokes is exactly that. It's what's being conjured up in your mind. What's what you can imagine. So yes, take that word and use it in other contexts in your analysis. Some really good, well-chosen words here. Some detailed analysis and looking at the effect of the language really effectively. I also love this sentence starter here, most strikingly the phrase "within its cage." So this is showing the examiner that this candidate is weighing up the way the writer has used language and has actually coming to conclusions about what language is most effective for them, is most evocative and most effective. So it's saying here it's most strikingly. So that's another phrase you might want to steal. Conveys a sense of entrapment and impression. That's another really useful word. If you're conveying something, you're getting it across, making the setting feel claustrophobic and hostile. So looking at the effect. Another lovely sentence starter here. Taken together, these details create a sinister and unsettling atmosphere. So what this candidate is able to do is not just look at one quotation and analyze it, another quotation, analyze it. They're actually looking at the combined effect of these quotations and how they all sort of build on each other. That's another lovely sentence starter, which if I were you, I would steal. Taken together, these details create a sinister, unsettling atmosphere. And again, looking at the effect on the reader, which heightens the reader's unease and reinforces the theme of confinement. Altogether, a very strong response, which I would use, copy it, model your responses on it. That's the way we learn. It's not cheating. Okay, so it explores multiple layers of connotation, multiple interpretations. It links to the theme and the atmosphere. So it's thinking about passage and the intentions of the writer as a whole. And it's structured logically, isn't it? It's looking at the quotation, it's looking at word level analysis, it's looking at the effect of that imagery, and it's connecting it to the theme. So altogether, a high level response. So let's do a bit of a recap of what you need to do in question 2 to really succeed. So as you know, question 2 is all about the language, and the examiner wants to see that you can really zoom in on the writer's words and explain how they shape the reader's experience. That's your experience. So you've got to be in touch with how the language makes you feel. Don't be afraid to use your imagination as long as it's rooted in the passage. You don't want to go off on a complete tangent talking about nothing related to the passage. It's got to be rooted in the passage. Okay, 3 steps. How to be successful. So first of all, very simply, you focus on the question. Underline it, In this case, it was the way the language describes the garden. That's what you've got to focus on. Nothing else. That's the focus. Underline the keyword. Now, in the other paper we were looking at, I think it was June 2019. Well, I was looking at that in my Instagram channel. So if you want to go back and look at those lessons, they're much shorter. It was the bus journey. Question 2 is all about Rosabel's bus journey. And we looked at that in some depth. In this case, it's the description of the garden. So underlining the focus, that keeps your answer on track. Step 2, pick out juicy quotations. So what do I mean by juicy? Basically, juicy quotations are quotations where you've got quite a lot to say. The examining board are not going to choose a passage for you to comment on in the language which has very few language devices. They're going to choose a passage that is rich in the way language is being used, with plenty of examples for you to analyse. So that should not be a problem. I would say probably 3 or 4 quotations, rather 2 or 3. I think to get the full 8 marks, you need to do more than 2. But it's important that you say a lot about the quotations. If you can give more than one interpretation, that pushes you up. So choose words that create strong imagery, that unusual descriptions. I mean, that word cage was an unusual choice of word. So you might want to think about why that word was used. Or powerful connotations. Okay. Step 3, this is an important one. You analyse, you don't describe. But you want to go a bit deeper than just describing what it says. You don't want to just say this is a metaphor. This makes it sound scary. It'll only get you so far. If you want to get to the top band, you've really got to unpack why the writer chose that word. What does it suggest? What atmosphere does it create? And how does it link to the bigger themes in the extract? And the more you practice this, the easier it will become. So do keep practicing. Just as if you were learning tennis, you wouldn't learn tennis just from reading in a book. You'd be out there practicing your forehand and backhand in the same way, analysing language. The more you practice, the easier it will become and the better you'll get at it. And looking at exemplar responses like that grade 9 response, picking up phrases and sentence starters from grade 9 candidates, that will always help. Okay, so what do I need to do to get from a mid-grade to a top grade? So the lower grade answers just repeat what's obvious. They've understood it on a surface level, but they've not really tried to dig any deeper. Mid-grade answers, they do go a bit deeper. They explain the effect and they start to explore the connotations. But what sets the top grade answers apart is that they develop a level of sophistication. They zoom in on specific words, they explore layers of meaning, and they try and link the effect to the way the writers tried to create the mood, the atmosphere, whether it links to the theme or the writer's intention. Yes, that writer's intention is really important. Thinking, what is the writer trying to, what's the writer trying to do here? Are they trying to create a sense of mystery or unease? And that's really the key to it. And don't be too worried if you think, well, I don't really know what the writer's intention. Your interpretation of the writer's intention might be different to mine. But as long as your comments are really rooted in the passage, that doesn't matter. As an examiner and as a teacher, I've read many interpretations, analyses that I've not agreed with, but I've given them full marks because the student has really thought about it and has really explained their ideas, and it's really precise, detailed analysis, and so that gets the full marks. Okay. So here's the examiner's checklist. Use subject terminology accurately. You've got to learn that. You've got to know really clearly what's a noun, what's a verb, what's an adjective, what's an adverb, what's a determiner, what's an abstract noun. That's the sort of content of English that you've got to learn. Obviously, a lot of preparing for the English language exam is practicing the skills. Yeah, but with subject terminology, you've got to learn it, you've got to know it, and you've got to use it accurately. You've got to choose your quotations judiciously. That means carefully. You want, quotations that you've got plenty to say about them. You've got to explore the writer's intention and write in clear, fluent sentences. So perhaps learn some of those sentence starters that we looked at in that grade 9 response. That would really help your fluency. So if you can do these 4 things, you're not just answering question 2, you're showing the examiner you deserve the very top marks. And a challenge next time you practice, follow this exact process, focus, choose juicy evidence, and try and give more than one interpretation. And that is how you move from spotting to interpreting, from a mid-grade to a grade 9. Well, I hope this has been helpful. We are going to be going through question 3 tomorrow from this paper, which is the structure question. And if you think this is going to be helpful for you for your English language GCSE, do subscribe, because I'm going to be doing a video every day to help you.